And we're live. So, this is a movie that I've wanted to cover for a long time, and I'm here with my buddy from high school, which was like 2 billion years ago. We, rode, like the fucking Flintstones back and forth to school every day. That's pretty much how we got down. My good friend Doug Lester. So, welcome back.
How are you?
All right. I got him here when we were covering Green Room, and that was a hellish movie. And if I'm not mistaken, I think you were the person who turned me on to this movie. You may have been. I think you would, while I was overseas, you would drop little notes. Hey, have you seen this? Hey, have you seen that? Or something in the comments, or you would, leave me an instant message or something like that. And I happened to catch this movie. And I've been wanting to talk to somebody about it because you and I and maybe a couple of people I've met since I started doing this program are the only people that have watched it.
And it's an incredible movie.
Yeah.
I can't believe it hadn't gained more popularity, really.
Well, it's like, I think it's like Rob Zombie said, being cool comes with a pay cut, you want the big bucks, you got to cut certain corners and listen to the suits or that sort of thing. But there's a ton, and I've been saying this for the past several weeks now, there's a ton of good indie horror out there. A lot of people despair about horror, and that it's going by the wayside with the big studio executives and this, that, and the other. And I keep saying there's good stuff out there, but you got to look a little bit for it. And what we're talking about here is Sean Byrne's sophomore effort called The Devil's Candy. So if you're ready, I'm ready to start talking about it. You good?
I'm ready.
Here we go. So, in light of the fact that there's such a heavy music influence in this movie, I decided to change up the intro with a little bit of Pygmy Love Circus. And I don't know if you know that band.
I do not.
They are a hellacious, they're this LA hard rock band with this guy. He's like this 6'8" cowboy with a huge handlebar mustache, and I don't know, maybe that means he's secretly in the Village People or some shit like that. He's named Michael Savage. But what drew me to the band was that the drummer is Danny Carey from Tool.
Okay,
it's just got a first-rate rhythm section, and some of the previous drummers were from Black Flag. I think Robo before that used to play drums for the band, and I saw them about 20 years ago in Philly at an old bar called the North Star Bar, and they just put. I've seen a lot. You've been to the North Star?
I have been, years and years and years ago, but yes.
Yeah. That's a hell of a bar. I've seen a lot of good bands there. I'm thinking of the Dictators. With old Big Dick Manitoba there.
Yep.
I've seen Mudhoney. Just a lot of. I've had a lot of fun times at that place. But one of the highlights was that band, and they certainly did not disappoint. Hold on a second. Trenchy's here in the house saying what's up. Never heard of this, but the name sounds dope. And I don't know if you mean Pygmy Love Circus or the Devil's Candy. We're here to talk about the Devil's Candy. Now, I assume Trenchy, that's what you mean. But I've done movies, and I recently did on the something shitty subthread, the Amityville Horror, which I think it's a god awful movie.
It's awful.
Yeah, it is. It's terrible, and it's just bad acting, bad scripts. The performers can't pull up the, how bad it is, because they seem like they're phoning it in too. And for some reason, it's this huge runaway hit. And I think It was more cult of personality than anything else. It was swept up in that time, and you're old enough to remember too, when that book came out, and like everyone was talking about the Amityville Horror.
Yeah, it was a
So
big thing.
yeah, and I think that, and like I said, when I did the something shitty subthread, I have nothing to say about the DeFeo murders, or I have nothing to say about the claims, whether it was true, the stories about the family were true or not. I was just talking about the merits of the movie, and it's just awful.
Yeah,
and I was saying that in that same year, you have the Amityville Horror, but you also have Tobe Hooper, who put out a great haunted house movie called Salem's Lot. And people forget that Salem's Lot, a lot of it has to do with the Marston House, a haunted house. And, if you're going to pick a movie for that year, I would rather go with that one. But this movie combines, and this might be the first time I'm covering one of these, it's a haunted house of sorts, but it's also got possession. And I think this is the first possession movie that I've covered. And this is just an unpretentious, I think it's like 80 minutes long.
Yeah, I think it runs in around that, yeah.
Yeah, and it comes out of that that time when they were making the Autopsy of Jane Doe, that IFC Midnight production. And also movies like A Dark Song that I've covered here, where they were just making these lean, independent, scary horror films. And this one is just, it might be I think A Dark Song is the best of the bunch, but damn, this is a solid movie.
I haven't seen Dark Song. I did see The Autopsy of Jane Doe. I don't remember it, but I did see it.
Okay, so maybe it didn't leave that much of an impact with you.
No, it was good. I remember being good. I just saw. I watched. I think I told you last time. I watch movies as I'm going to bed at night, so sometimes it takes me a week to finish something. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you got to and then you got to.
I do remember being good though.
Okay, so this movie, of all things, stars Ethan Embry, who is the last person I would expect to see in a possession movie. I mean, Ethan Embry comes from, he actually did a passable werewolf. He's in a passable werewolf movie called Late Phases. Have you seen that?
Too, yeah.
Yeah, yep, that's a pretty decent werewolf film.
That was good, yeah.
He was also in Empire Records. Oh God,
that's where I knew him from. Yeah, I couldn't remember, but yeah.
Yeah, I think we were all wrapped up in Liv Tyler at the time in that miniskirt. And that was probably who took everyone's attention at the time. But then he was also in probably the last teen movie that I've seen. I don't know if you remember this, because I was too old for it by the time it came out, but I still thought it was funny. Can't Hardly Wait, where I think he's the love interest for like Jennifer Love Hewitt.
Yeah, I think I believe I might have seen that, but I know what you mean.
That was a really good movie, and probably the last teen movie that I don't remember what the name of that other one that came up recently, but like 10 years ago or so, with McLovin or whatever. I never saw any of those.
Yeah, I know. Shit. I mean, I'm looking at Ethan Embry right now to see if I can find.
Yeah, but no.
He was in that thing. He was in That Thing You Do as well.
I never saw that.
That's really good.
Really? That was Tom Hanks, right? The band movie, right?
Yeah, I really liked that. That was good. I thought it was pretty good. Okay. I don't know what the other movie is, but yeah.
Okay, Trenchy said, yeah, Devil's Candy, but the other Circus is a hell of a band. I don't even think they're around anymore. It's one of those things when, like, the stars line up a certain way, you get four people together, and then they, I will do a tour this summer. Yeah, it just happens to work. I like the OG Amityville, but it is lacking and overrated compared to other haunted house films like the underrated Burnt Offerings. Yes, fucking Burnt Offerings. Yeah, Oliver Reed, man. Anything with Oliver Reed. Mm-hmm. And is it Karen Black? I can't. Elizabeth McGovern, I think, is his wife, and that ending is still probably one of the scariest things. That just completely freaked me out when I was a kid. Burnt Offerings, fantastic. But in this, you've got Ethan Embry from Can't Hardly Wait as a metalhead dad with a metalhead daughter and a wife, and he's an artist, like a painter kind of artist, and he's, how would you phrase it? I mean, do you think he's burnt out a little bit from.
Yeah, it seems like he's struggling. He's doing like some corporate art and stuff like that, and it seems like he's trying to get that together and get a studio going and all that, and wanting something deeper, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I guess with anybody that has any sort of creative, flow going, you wanna do the deep stuff.
And he's stuff kind of not doing the deep stuff.
Yeah, I think it starts out where he's painting butterflies for like a bank wall or something that. Yeah. And like his daughters, they understand, and his wife understands, but they're poking fun at him a little bit, and it's not. You can tell it's not really what he wants to do. And then, of course, because it's a haunted house movie, they happen to undertake a new project, which is buying a house. Not a small thing. So now he has real bills.
Yeah, more responsibilities and all that.
Yeah, more responsibility. He's probably, a little frustrated, maybe because he's excited about the house, but he might have to sell out a little bit more, so to speak, because he needs money. And the things, unfortunately, that you do, maybe that come from the best parts of inside you, you can't always cash a check with that. But it seems like a very, put together kind of family. Everybody loves everybody. They're kind to people. I would say that they're working class people. I think his wife, who's played by Shirley Appleby, Astrid, I think she's like a server. And she's like a food server or something like that. And their daughter's a high school student. So, they're taking on a little more responsibility. They buy this house, which, of course, as in every haunted house movie, the realtor kind of lies to them about the situation.
He fell down the stairs. He neglected to mention that it was like an axe that helped the lady fall down the stairs or something like that.
Yeah, I can't remember if it was an axe or the
guitar, maybe.
The V, the V model, the flying V, the flying V, which I want to talk about a little bit later. Now, this is written and directed by Sean Byrne, who had a soft. Off the top of my head, and I just had it written down, but I didn't think I copied it over. This is his second movie because he had come back from about 6 years before with another horror movie that was well received. But it has a lot of influences. I think he said himself from The Exorcist, Rosemary's Baby, a little bit, and I think he said, unfortunately, the Amityville Horror. But following that theme of like families that are in conflict with evil.
Yeah.
And he also said that a lot of this had to do. I think he had an impending. I think his first child was coming or something like that. So there's also this theme of a father being able to protect his family.
Yeah, that's the thing that struck me the most about it. Really, was the Ethan Embry, by the way, was like fantastic in it. Like he was so good, I didn't recognize him. Like he just was like that person in the movie.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
Which is rare. I mean, like a lot of times you'll see actors and you just think of them like if you see Brad Pitt or something, it's him. You're just like watching him doing something. Like I thought I sort of recognized Ethan Embry, but he was just so good in that role. Like he just took the character over completely.
Yeah, he plays against type.
Exactly.
The typical comedic kind of guy. He seems to have, he's like always got his shirt off half the time and he's all tatted up, and he kind of looks like a a young metalhead dad.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is absolutely. Yeah, and he's got like the Maynard tat down his spine, where
going
like
down
all
his spine and all that.
Yeah, so he's he looks like really intense, but again, he seems to raise his family, with their families together with love and everything like that. But they buy this house, and that's where the trouble starts to come into paradise. It is kind of a cool house, but before we get into that, we should probably talk about. Hold on a second. 1 second. Okay. Pruitt Taylor Vince.
Yeah, he's incredible. He is also incredible in this.
Who is just perhaps one of the scariest antagonists I can remember in a long time. And it starts where he's in a house in the dark playing this riff on a flying V guitar in the middle of the night, because what he claims is that if he plays that loud enough, then he can't hear the voice that's telling him to do terrible things.
Which is so creepy and ridiculous in a way that it's terrifying. Like seeing him with a flying V just going.
Yeah. It's this heavy riff in the middle of the night. And, so you're clearly dealing with mental illness, but then you don't understand if you're necessarily dealing with something more. And then, very quickly, within the first couple of minutes, he kills his own mother.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, he kills his own mother within, I think, the first 5 minutes of the movie. And then it just kind of takes off from there. Where
she did unplug his guitar, though. I mean, come on.
Well, that's true. But something, if you're going to push it about the flying V, I don't think anybody, if you're not Randy Rhoads or like Eddie Van Halen, you should not have a flying V at all. I'm not saying you have to have one of those Ryan Adams, Tender Feelings kind of guitars that he always plays, that kind of thing. But yeah, if you're not Randy, you're not playing Mr. Crowley or, something like that.
You shouldn't have a flying V.
Yeah, you should have a flying V. I'm sorry. It's like, yeah, okay. It's just bad. It's all the way bad. But one of the things that grabbed me was the music from this movie that just keeps this unrelenting, heavy kind of metal tone to things. And it's one of those soundtracks that are probably worth checking out. I'm going to dig it up on Spotify, I think, when I go out on my run tomorrow.
Yeah, because it was good.
Yeah, I mean, it starts out with a Metallica doing a cover of a King Diamond.
Yeah, I think so.
Original, yeah. Am I Evil?
Yeah.
So there's this argument, layered over the whole thing about how evil sort of seeps into the cracks, of this family. How does evil sort of get in there? And I think in this case, it starts in on Ethan Embry immediately. He starts hearing the voices.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, right away.
He starts hearing the voices that Pruitt Taylor, that Pruitt Vince starts hearing immediately. Now, I think with Pruitt Taylor, you have someone who is clearly mentally ill, and he's just, he never changes his outfit. I think during I think this must take place over what, a couple of weeks,
something like that. Yeah,
and he never changes, and he just gets continually more filthy. At one point, I think he strips down to his T-shirt.
With the big stain on it, and on the
and you don't know if it's dirt or sweat or if it's just like fecal matter on him, because he
does wear a trash bag at one point, though.
Yeah, he's completely filthy, and what you find out the voices are telling him to do is not just kill people, but to kill children.
Yeah,
he's literally bashing the heads in of small children, and cutting them up and dropping them in suitcases. So that's about as horrific a subject, matter as you can possibly get. And this is a man who used to live in the house where this family has now moved in. Hold on a second. Trenchy, yeah, it is. It's one of the more interesting movies I've seen in a little bit. He needs money now. The family needs money now to afford this new house. So do you think it's possible that, the evil sort of seeps in through his ambition?
Yeah, especially when they at the art gallery, when the Belial's art gallery or whatever, they see his paintings, they're getting more and more evil, and that the gallery owner seemed pretty evil. And again, it kind of touches into the thing that struck me the most. It's like it kind of interferes with his relationship with his daughter even. This is a family you're rooting for, and the daughter and the father remind me a lot of myself and my daughter. Like we're both like we drive around and listen to Ghost and stuff like that. So I mean, to see him like he was late picking her up for school because he was painting, and then he went to the gallery, and on the way back he got the flat tire and stuff. So it's you can see the evil kind of seeping in, and like the gallery owner said something about nothing great comes without a sacrifice.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it is kind of seeping in through his ambition, or at least to him it feels like his ambition is getting in the way of other things too. I mean, it really does, but
yeah, and it's not a horrible type of ambition. I mean, he's just trying to earn a little money, one, to pay for this house now, but two, he wants to do his own sort of art. So it's not like he's a bad person.
No, well, that's the age-old
or like
thing,
willfully neglectful or abusive.
No, but that's the quandary of life. You have to get more, to do more for your family. You have to take time away from them to do it. So it's kind of that whole situation.
Yeah, it's the I think Jordan Peterson puts it as you sacrifice something now for a reward that may come later.
Yeah.
That sort of thing, and I think that's something that any family can relate to.
Yeah, and that's what makes it more horrifying in a way. Like again, that is a family that you really root for and you like, and they seem like cool people, and again, their relationships are good, and just crappy things happening to them. It makes it even worse.
Yeah, and the odd thing about it is that the dad has a closer relationship to the daughter than the mother seems to.
Yeah. Again, like the two little metalheads, and
they're just locked in together. They're bosom buddies. And nothing's separating them. And mom is sort of on the outside, but she's not jealous. She's not that type or anything. They're a really squared away family. But just by having this small crack, it seems literally that Satan is able to fit into this small space of his ambition. And when the possession starts to come across, it's very minimalist. It's very subtle. It takes the form of just lost time while he's painting.
Yeah, hours and hours. Yeah,
he just
entire day and night.
Yeah, he just, like, the first time it happens to him, I think he just goes out in front of this canvas where he was working on for the bank, and before he knows it, because they've turned this adjoining barn into the studio, and it becomes this, piece. Oh, excuse me. I lost my train of thought for a second. He goes into work on what he thinks is going to be the bank piece, but once the voices start speaking to him, he just paints something completely different. He just completely loses time. It's not like he loses track of time. Like, he just doesn't even realize, once he sort of snaps out of it, that he's created this thing that he doesn't recognize with his conscious mind.
Black inverted cross dripping black liquid.
Yeah. And he keeps developing it until it turns into this just horror piece.
Big horrific monstrosity. Yeah. I like it, by the way, but yeah.
Yeah, in a strange sort of way, I do too. It's like the Glamour of Evil or something like that. You got to give the devil his due, so to speak. But this started out as a painting full of butterflies. For a bank, and he goes into this blackout, which is, this demonic sort of possession fugue, I guess you would call it, and ends up painting something like this, which goes even further because he starts painting these children that are burning in fire. I mean, it's super dark subject matter, because you find out that
he was hearing the voices of the children too, though, right? So was he possessed by good or by evil? That's the thing.
That's what I wanted to talk about that too, because I was under the impression, although we're sort of jumping all over the place, which is fine, that something higher was channeling through him and maybe allowing this darkness to happen, but ultimately leading to a
good thing.
End. So like in the ultimate, you've got him here in the family, and then you've got, maybe evil, sort of in the crow's nest position, but perhaps in the highest position, you've got good, maybe God, looking out and, just allowing sort of everything to sort of play out the way that it does. Because what you find out, the devil's candy is children. It's the death of children, the horrible death and mutilation of small children. That's what the devil's candy is. And
it's pretty awful.
Yeah, it's awful subject material, and it's in the hands of this man who just sort of one day shows up at his old house while the family is living there, and sort of in kind of not so subtle way, let them know that he wants to come back into the house. Because what you find out is that this is all a misdirection. I think at some level the evil is misdirecting the father because he's really targeting Zoe, the daughter.
Yeah, the child. Yeah.
It's not that Ray, the serial killer, the possessed person, is targeting the daughter. It's that the devil himself is targeting this child, and he wants to schwack her.
He said she's the sweetest candy.
Yeah, and it's this twisted story. He comes into the house and just lays there in the bed with her. While the father is out painting, and it just turns into this. Like I think there are 2 attack scenes, where they're awful. I mean, because he's this huge, bulky guy.
Yeah.
And this is not a family that's accustomed to violence.
Not in the least, no.
No, they're like an arty family. They're smoking weed, and he's just sweet talking to his wife all the time. And I did sort of make the observation that these were the only people in Texas who didn't have a gun.
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
I was like, how do you people? You're Texans. Like, how is this? How is this happening? But while this misdirection is happening with the family, with the father, Ray is actually targeting the daughter, and he's in his own way. He's very tormented because he's trying to fight against what evil is telling him to do. But ultimately, he's no match for that.
No, he folds.
Yeah, he ends up completely folding. And so it becomes the role of the parents. And then, of course, ultimately the father to protect his family, and who is just a regular man. I mean, it's not like, The Rock, or somebody like that. It's just, some guy who paints for a living is suddenly confronted with this monster appearing at his door and breaking into his home, which is probably the worst possible scenario that any parent
horrible
could have. This thing just sort of storming your house. John is saying they moved to Texas, maybe. Okay, well, yeah, it's entirely possible, and that's why they don't have a gun. They're not actually Texans. Yeah. They're from like Pennsylvania or Chicago, and they're city slickers or something like that.
And, they're definitely liberal type people.
Says, hey. You're absolutely right. They are liberal type people because they have no sense that this is coming from an evil place or anything like that. Whereas maybe, and I think at one point there is a scene where a televangelist gets on there and sort of speaks about what the role of the devil is in this movie, that he's not the person that you see in the movies or in the cartoons. He's active all the time, and he's violent and just this sort of anti-God. It's much. I think the preacher says at one point it's much worse than what people actually imagine him to be, and he slips through the smallest things. So, with this man's small wish to make a bit more money for his family, it finds a way in, and that's an actual scary thought because, I mean, it's just a movie, but, every parent and especially, every father, who's worth a damn, probably I'm not a parent, but I know enough parents and I know enough fathers to know that the good ones always want to be there and be able to provide.
And protect and all that, yeah.
Yeah, and so, to even have that, sort of turned on its head against you,
Yeah, when your intentions are good, but it just turns out bad.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because there's something waiting there to slip right through the tiniest crack, and just exploit it to the most horrible end. It's a hell of a concept. It's a hell of a concept really for a movie, huh?
It's a very deep movie.
I mean, it is. It is. It's 6 years on, so I'm not going to avoid this. I'm going to get into what happens into the movie and how it kind of ends. It turns out that there's a second extraordinarily violent attack at the house where he, essentially overpowers both parents and attempts to burn the house down with himself and the daughter in her bedroom. And at that time, it's up to dad if he's able to do anything to protect his family. And he comes through in the end, of course, and this was the only thing that a flying V is actually worth, which is actually smashing. Because I didn't see anybody in the movie that could actually play it.
No, that includes the daughter too. Yeah, she was
that includes. She was awful.
Beyond awful.
Awful. Yeah,
she deserved to be abducted.
Yeah. And Trenchy's. This movie sounds very interesting, man. I'll tell you what. This movie is on Hulu. If you get an opportunity, check it out today. It's 80 minutes long. Not pretentious at all. It's got fantastic performances by everyone in this movie. It's got a fantastic script. There's really nothing that I would cut out that I would say was unnecessary in this movie. And it's got great directing.
Yeah, I agree. It moved at a good pace. Like there's nothing draggy, nothing too fast. Like it just unfolded perfectly.
Yeah, it unfolded perfectly. It ended very succinctly. And it's a good movie and it's a sleeper. And, it gets probably drowned out by, I would put this movie, what's your thought? Would you take this or the original Conjuring? Because I think I would actually go with this, or if I wouldn't, then it's certainly right up there.
The Conjuring, that would be on my shit list. So I didn't like The Conjuring. Yeah,
not even the original one. Not even the original.
When you say the original, you mean like the very first of all these series?
Yeah, the very first. Yeah.
I wasn't crazy about it.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't really. I mean, it's been a while since I've seen it. I may, now that you mention it and you have a higher opinion of it, I may rewatch it just to see what I think. But definitely this. Like, again, this movie just hits all the points with the family and the father and the daughter and stuff. Like, I don't think I'm gonna. Of those two, I'd probably stick with.
I would stick with this too. And it was funny because The Conjuring is a good movie, but you know something, and this is God's truth. A couple of days ago, maybe 3-4 days ago, I decided I wanted to watch it. And I realized like 10 minutes into it, I just stopped watching it. Like, it's one of those things that becomes background noise.
Yeah.
And I caught myself doing that. And I'm like, wow, The Conjuring has just, become background noise. But this movie, I was glued to.
I rewatched it, and me too. Yeah, I rewatched it, and I was glued to it too. I'd already seen it, and I'd seen it twice prior, and then I rewatched it before this, and yeah, that was.
Yeah, there's no special effects.
No,
there's
no other than the fires and stuff, but no, nothing.
Yeah, there's some stunts with fire. There's no CGI. Or there might be some CGI with the fire, but that's about it. There are no practical effects. This is all based on performances.
Yeah, and between Ethan Embry and I forget the guy's name now, the big serial killer guy. Yeah, I mean, it's just riveting between the two of them. It's Ethan Embry's incredible in it. It's he's just very, very riveting to watch, and the killer, of course, is too.
Yeah, and the daughter. I like the fact that they actually got a child to play a child.
Yeah.
Because nowadays you get like a 20-something and she's trying to play 15 or something like that. But that sort of added to it. That sort of made it worse.
Yeah. Yeah, because
know,
you
and
knew
you're
it was a kid, and she was being, she got abducted and duct taped, and
she's
was
being duct
basically
taped.
ready to die, and then she got out. But
Yeah, he wants to hacksaw her, and then he wants to burn her. He wants to burn her in the house. He wants to burn her alive, and it's just this. And then he's struggling because he's being controlled, but at the same time he's just doing monstrous things. Until ultimately, I think what this movie is that the father's love is stronger than even the pull of evil. And
yeah,
I
I would
mean, like
agree. Yeah,
a severe pull of evil. As bad as it possibly gets. But when he starts to become aware of what's actually happening, even with the enabling of the Belial Art Company, I think you're absolutely right. I think they're complete enablers. For him to continue along this evil path, you get the impression that he's sort of being set up.
Yeah.
And that ultimately he might make that money, but they're gonna
Take his
eat
daughter.
they're gonna eat his daughter. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the price he's going to pay for that sort of fame. And when he finally cuts that painting to shit, he snaps out of it. And he realizes that there's nothing more important than family. But coming back to what you were saying, about maybe something, even higher than that, that good is being channeled through him at the end, when he finally puts this monster down. He's led to this place in his own yard, which is formerly the yard of the killer, where, numerous bodies have been buried. All these children that he said have been speaking to him through the entirety of the painting process, which we assume came from an evil place, but which, I sort of believe may have actually been coming from a good place, and that these children have been crying out for some kind of justice. And in the end, he finds, that's how the movie ends, where he finds all the suitcases.
Which is a good ending, too.
Yeah, and the sun starts to come out, and it hits his face, and the darkness kind of ends, and he's found all the suitcases with all these chopped up children in them. And that it just kind of closes on that, and you're like, holy shit, did I just watch that? And how do more people not know about this movie?
Yeah, it was great. My favorite when he kills the killer with the flying V.
Well, yeah. I mean, then he stabs him with the neck, doesn't he?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah. Thank God. Hold on a second. Remember, a man's home is his castle. When the castle is breached, the father feels like he's betraying the family. Yeah, and there are a number of, scenes in the movie where, his daughter is reminding him that, he's falling down on the job. Even this, attempt to make more money is starting to drive a wedge between him and his daughter, because he becomes neglectful. Now, she doesn't understand that he's being, maneuvered in that sort of way, but you can already see he's already sort of,
dropping
pushing his hand. Yeah, he's dropping the ball, and they're trying to let him know. So
yeah, which again just really adds a different element to it. As a horror movie, it adds a very human element instead of a supernatural element. That's like something that everyone feels and can relate to.
Yeah, and we were talking about the Dead Zone last night with Cronenberg's with Christopher Walken, and we said the script in there is strictly from Christopher Walken's point of view. You're not seeing that serial killer that he helps catch. You're not seeing the point of view of Martin Sheen as the insane politician. It's strictly this human sort of story, and it's so focused on the fact that he's this suffering human being who's constantly being asked to do the right thing at great pain to himself, that you almost forget about the supernatural element.
Yeah.
It's very understated, that sort of psychic ability that he has. You almost sort of forget about it, and you're just like, oh God, he's got to do something else, and this is going to take more out of him. And in this movie, again, I mean, even compared to The Conjuring, with they had some special effects tricks, and this flash of this person that you might be seeing, who's really the antagonist or the evil person. There's none of that in this movie. It's just all solid performances. You never see any demons. There's no flying pea soup. No spinning heads, and that's the concept of the movie where I think that televangelist says that the devil turns ordinary people into his demons.
Yeah, and it all could happen. That's the other thing too. Yeah, there's nothing so crazy that couldn't actually happen.
Yeah, yeah. And then you find out that this killer's had a long history. I think he killed a 9-year-old girl when he was small, and he's been saying for his whole life that he's been serving the devil. But aside from some whispering, there's very little paranormal material in here. I mean, it could be you could make this movie without the paranormal material about just a mentally ill person.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
So I mean, if any of you out there that are watching this, if you have Hulu, it's on there right now. I just watched it last night. It's one of those turn the lights out, get some popcorn. It's very subtle what you're going to see, but I think it's worth it. I think it's superior to The Conjuring, which was, possession movies are hit and miss because, the first possession movie was perfect. I feel, The Exorcist. I thought yeah. And so, it's hard to undo or do something better after you've done it perfect the first time. And so many other movies fall off, but every once in a while you get one that's worthwhile. And I keep finding the movies that I'm preferring as I, move into, I'm coming up on 36 shows now. It's next to nothing. But, when you start to target, this specific genre, I'm finding that the movies that I appreciate the most are the minimalist kind of movies, the independent movies, the ones that aren't full of, special effects where, they're pulling all the, like I was talking about Coppola's Dracula, where like Coppola pulls like every trigger imaginable. And you're like, oh God. Not to mention, what you think is good in 93 may not be the same. You may not have the same thought of it 30 years later.
Yeah, that's correct. Whereas something like this, I think, would work no matter when, really.
Yeah, because there's nothing to strip away from it.
Yeah,
there's nothing to strip away from
perfect. When I first saw it, I was really blown away. I just thought it was one of the most perfect movies I'd seen.
I appreciate you telling me about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Do. Still got to check out Uncle Peckerhead.
Yeah, well. All right, great review, guys. This movie sounds awesome. Trenchy, get yourself on Hulu and check it out, bro. I think for now, that's probably a good place to wrap it up. We've been going about 40 minutes, and we've talked almost half the length of the entire movie.
Yeah, that's right.
So, that's pretty fair. If you see this on the replay, if you would like the video, subscribe, please. We'll be back next week. This is it for this week, but on Monday, I'll be bringing back something shitty. This way comes when I tackle the Phantom Menace, for God's sake. And then on Wednesday, we'll be there with the Devil's Rejects. And then on Thursday, we'll be doing Big Fish. So my thanks to you, Doug. Stick around for a minute, but I appreciate you, and let's get back together soon.
I'd still like you to watch Uncle Peckerhead. You could put it on your shittiest one.
And we're signing off.